Hardy Construction.
What's up, everybody? It's the Hardy Construction. You can find us at hardyconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/hardyconstruction, as well as facebook.com/thehardyconstruction with your hosts, Comp and...
Frog Fuchsius.
And today's film is...
John Dies at the End.
John Dies at the End is a 2012 film about a new street drug that sends its users across time and dimensions, and it has one drawback. Some people return as no longer human. Can two college dropouts save humankind from the silent, otherworldly invasion? Directed by...
I don't know, Alex. You tell me.
I don't think I know either. Written by David Wong, which is a fake name as well because it's written in first person as character. I don't know the guy who actually wrote it. I forget his name. Directed by Don Coscarelli, who also did films like Phantasm and Bubba Hotep and What Name You. So, this film, give us a little... Let's do one of your...
One of my explanations?
Yeah.
Well, this is a really hard one to explain. Okay, it's basically there's this drug called soy sauce, which makes you able to transcend the dimensions and be a super psychic or something, and like see monsters and shit like this that you can't normally perceive.
This is what I think of... You know that show Supernatural?
I've never seen it.
Me neither. And and it's not like I have any real interest in seeing that show. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I think what it is, I saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then what's that?
So it seems like a Buffy type of thing, and I don't like that. No,
I liked the first seasons, like the first 3 seasons of Buffy, but I just couldn't watch anymore after.
I just love the movie of Buffy.
Oh, did you? Yeah?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
But this is kind of what I think that show Supernatural is, in a sense where it's 2 guys taking on monsters or whatever weekly, but it's jammed into 90 minutes and has a high budget, except for like the last 15 minutes. But what did you think about this movie?
It's pretty fucking awesome. I mean, you can't predict anything that's going to happen.
It's a film...
Definitely unpredictable, which is a good thing.
It's a film that I would lump in with the movies, which you've got to see, which I'm sure you would love. There's a film that came out called Detention that came out, I think, 2012 as well. And and it's really weird. It's horror/comedy/ time travel.
What's it called?
Detention. I'm sure we're going to be covering it soon anyway.
Okay.
But, and that's a really good but really mindfuck movie, but it's extremely comedic in a way.
For some reason, it had me thinking of Super 8, which it's nothing like that, but it had that kind of feeling to me.
What's funny is I was watching Let Me In last night, and that reminded me of Super 8, just because...
Really?
Just because J.J. Abrams had his, stink all over it in a way, because there was a lot of lens flares in the movie. The movie was really good, too. Very surprisingly good. Anyway,
his butthole all over that movie.
So, what's that? Yeah, probably.
His juicy butthole.
So, John Dies at the End, which was originally a novel. I remember seeing it 2 or 3 years.
I'd be curious to read the novel to see if it's as weird as this.
It's the opposite of whatever happens in the film. Apparently, the book's really good, but there's a lot of differences in the book compared to the movie. Like, there's the dog's called Barkley in here.
Yeah.
It's called Molly in the novel. Huh. And there's a character called, I don't know. This is Dave Wong is different in a way. John Cheese is different. It's funny, when I was watching the film, David Wong. Let's get into the main characters. David Wong, who meets up with a reporter, I guess, right, or journalist.
Who, the Jamaican dude?
No, the journalist at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yeah, Paul Giamatti, yeah.
Paul Giamatti is playing Arnie Blondstone. And what's funny about the guy who plays Dave, Chase Williamson, he looks a little bit like a chubby version of Robert Pattinson, and I couldn't get that out of my head throughout the whole movie. He looks like the guy from...
Robert Pattinson, the guy from Twilight?
Yeah, he looks like him, but
oh, don't say that.
In a chubbier and, more frantic kind of way.
Sorry, the guy from Harry Potter originally?
Yes. And
redeems him a little.
And the way that what did you think about the opening with the axe little story?
It was cool. It was funny. It's kind of a cute movie. I can't explain it. It has a cuddly feeling to it.
It's a quirky film, and why that is because the writer of the film is David Wong. Well, he actually didn't write the script on the film. The script was
No, I'm confused. Is that really the guy's name, and he just made himself the
name? No. The guy's name is something else. I'm gonna try to look it up right now. I forget his name.
Because I know the character changed his name, so it'd be harder to track. He says.
Yeah, explain that a bit.
But I don't know if that's.
No, it's not. The actual writer of the novel, he writes for Cracked.com, which is kind of like I guess
Ad
it's
magazine type of thing.
yeah. Remember how Mad Magazine I guess Mad Magazine has been out for the longest time, and then they had Cracked Magazine, which was a ripoff of Mad, which with its own kind of I guess iterations on humor.
Right.
And it had its own like Mad had Alfred E. Newman and Cracked had Sylvester P. Smythe. I used to pick up both magazines because I had nothing else to do.
Never even heard of that, but I know Alfred E. Newman.
I remember reading it. I was so afraid of one issue of Cracked that I had because it was making fun of Child's Play 2, and it was just all gore and violence. And
Right.
I was afraid that I was going to get so much trouble for reading that comic because I was at my aunt's house that I ripped out the images with Chucky in it and threw it in the garbage.
We had like exact opposite childhoods.
Your parents celebrated that you saw that?
Shit. My dad would watch that movie with me as a kid. Like seriously.
Well, I didn't. This was my aunt, so I didn't know what the fuck she was thinking. But anyway, this film starts out with a little story about an axe. A guy. It's like a very arresting opening where you see a guy chopping up a body on its front lawn, and he's going through this really weird monologue. And I think what happens in the novel is completely different because in the novel version, Dave is actually, he was actually affected by those little, the little creatures that are in the movie, whatever the hell those are, those wasps or whatever the hell they were.
Oh, the flies, yeah.
Right, because somewhere in the book he actually finds his body somewhere else, so he's actually a replica of himself.
Okay,
that's why
it was like a confusing. I'm not sure I really understood everything. Which I don't think you're really supposed to either.
Yeah, and we didn't spoil anything we spoiled the book, but I mean in the movie
you can't really spoil this movie.
There's
impossible.
There's so much shit going on in the movie that I actually had to go back and watch some sequences because I didn't remember. I mean, there was so much stuff to remember in it that you're watching it going, what the hell just happened? What did I see?
I think we should just do some highlights that we find cool because there's no point of trying to really go through every single thing.
Let's set up the general premise of the film. Although I don't understand the timeline of it really, and I know the film is about fucking with timelines, but I know when Arnie Blonstone, who's Paul Giamatti, is interviewing David Wong, who's actually a white guy, and he changes his name to Wong as a surname.
Well, that's like in the future. That's like after all this stuff.
That's what's happening now, right?
And they've I'm assuming that they, from what I understand, they have already established a little Ghostbuster type of business. Him and John.
Right, and the story he's telling takes.
Am I right with that, or am I completely wrong? I mean, I think.
No, that's what I think he's doing, but I'm trying to. I get what you're saying. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? Because the beginning opens somewhere before the now. It's happening, I guess, right before the now. I assume that's what's happening. Right?
Well, when he's meeting with that guy Arnie, Paul Giamatti, that's in the future.
That's
and
happening.
Showing the woman turn into snakes, that's in the future. All the stuff that the movie is in the past.
But did that part with the woman with the snakes happen before? Yeah, it happened before.
It happened before Arnie because he's telling Arnie about it, but it could have happened a week ago.
But the main story that Dave is telling to Arnie about how he got into this whole situation takes place in high school.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Meanwhile, the actors look exactly the same, and that's where it kind of threw me off. But then whatever, it's an unreliable narrator, which they say happens in the book as well. So anyway, Arnie is listening to the story from Dave's perspective, and kind of let's give a little truncated version of what the story is. I mean, you can't spoil the story because there's so much shit going on.
Yeah.
How did you come to what the story was about?
This drug totally fucks with them.
It's called soy sauce.
All of a sudden, so basically, Dave meets this Jamaican dude who freaks him out and makes him puke up a roach.
Robert Marley. And I like that scene a lot because the film actually makes you think about weird stuff in reality. You know what I mean? Like how
you wake up before a dream.
Right, how you contemplate life and time and what does it mean, and if you really die, what happens after that. Because when he meets up with this Rastafarian guy in the middle of one of John is his friend called John Cheese, who looks like a regular pretty boy kind of guy. He kind of looks like who's that guy?
Jason Lee.
You think he looks like? I think he looks more like the guy from the Fast and the Furious movies, like those. That kind of.
He also looks like the main guy from not the main guy. No, that's Jason Lee too. That's Jason Lee playing that guy. Never mind. Okay.
Maybe see, and it's also funny because the film also has it also plays with your perspective on how people look, because there are people who are demons or they're possessed by something, and one character will completely see them in a different way than the other one does.
Yeah.
So
I didn't get that at first. I thought it was just a joke that he's like a really stupid non-humor joke where he's like, "But she's brown hair," and he's like, "Oh, okay." Like, like really stupid. Like if I saw like a really short person, I'd be like, "Oh, he's really tall."
Yeah, it's a really interesting kind of thing. So anyway, David is at this party or at this outdoor concert that John is playing with his friends, and he goes off and he sees this. He's really sarcastic kind of guy, very dour, he kind of seems misanthropic.
He's a very cynical bastard.
That's what he is. And he meets up with this guy called Robert Marley, and he's like this Rastafarian dude. And he tells him the story about how he's trying to show him a magic trick, and David is like, "Yeah, right, this is all bullshit." And he tells him this really interesting sequence where he's talking in this really interesting part where he knows what he was dreaming about, and that he fell off the bed at the same time he woke up at the same time a thunderclap happened outside of while there was like a storm.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it is really weird on how life can play that kind of way. Do you know what I mean? Like
when the alarm goes off and you like hear it before it happens, or you wake up like 2 seconds before it happens. Like, how does that happen?
I remember one dream as a kid that I had that was very vivid is that I fell out of my window and I was falling, and I woke up as I fell off my bed and hit the floor. So it's really weird. It's like how did my brain perpetuate that?
Maybe like that split second you were falling in the dream was like a minute,
Right. So it was like some Inception kind of thing, but it's a very weird kind of concept of reality that, if you really stop and think about reality, like, wow, what the hell's going on? You think about like I said before, deja vu, you're like, what is that? Like,
I would do the soy sauce if it was there.
Soy sauce seems a little frightening. So
it
anyway,
seems frightening at first, but then it's not anymore.
So David goes to visit John one day because John is his, I guess, best bud. What did you think of the John character? Because they did name the film John Dies at the End.
He's almost like unimportant in a way.
Yeah, he's kind of like a blank slate.
It's like a guide. He goes through the form of a hot dog, a dog named Barkley.
I mean, he does say interesting stuff that help further the plot, but he's not really the central focus of the film. So it's kind of like a screwball way to get the audience in there. It says John dies at the end because you're expecting him to die. Meanwhile, he clinically dies halfway in it.
10 minutes, not even. It was like a third of the way into it.
Right, and I did like some interesting points, and it's just I can't explain this film without making it sound.
There's some sick fucking scenes in this movie.
There's a lot of.
This movie just has great visuals. The scene where that black cop is driving the car and his fucking eye explodes outwards. Oh my god.
His name is The Detective. It's by Glenn Turman. If anybody saw The Wire, he was playing a corrupt official in there. He was awesome. I forget. He was in a lot of shit. But if you see him, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is. But on The Wire, there was a great scene in The Wire where he was getting a blowjob from a lady. He played Mayor Clarence V. Royce on that show, and there was a part where he was getting a blowjob from a lady and somebody caught them. And I don't know how they even set up for a scene like that, but the lady was obviously sucking on a toy dick for the scene, because see it come out of her mouth and you hear the whole popping sound effect. And I'm like, why did they have to go that much? Why do they even need to? What's the point of that? But anyway, so John is out of his mind one day. He sees this creature climbing up on his wall. Apparently, he took the soy sauce given to him by, I guess there was an after party.
Yeah, by Bob Marley. Rob Marley.
By Robert Marley. It was supposed to be Bob Marley. I mean, that's the joke. Everybody in the novel has a celebrity's name. Besides John and David. They have Amy Sullivan's not one, but there's people that are named Jennifer Lopez, stuff like that. It's really weird.
Oh, Jennifer Lopez? Really?
Somebody has a good Jennifer Lopez. I think that's one of his ex-girlfriends. It's called Jennifer Lopez. And apparently he takes this drug called soy sauce in this giant syringe. I mean, that was like...
Burritos. What does the song go?
Tacos and burritos like my kisses. Something like that.
Taco-flavored
kisses.
Taco-flavored kisses.
I remember him giving a hand job to Ben Affleck, and I was like, they could put this shit on TV? I couldn't even believe it.
South Park rules.
But So anyway, he goes off to this. Apparently, John got high off this black soy sauce drug that was inside of this giant syringe.
And it's a
That's a lot of fucking soy sauce in that syringe, right?
It's a non. It goes against the law of physics that liquid.
Why is that?
Well, because you know the way it comes out, like when you hold a magnet near it, it sparks out like that.
Oh, when it spikes and all that, like it had hair and cilia on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently, like during that, David is driving them back, and it was so funny that they actually, since it was Don Coscarelli directing this, you actually have a cameo from the tall man himself, and he's holding it pretty well. You know what I mean? The priest.
Wait, which part was that?
The priest. When he's speaking to the priest, that's the tall
really?
man.
Oh shit.
He's got his shit together. He was talking all normal. I figured he'd be like, oh, you know, drooling and stuff by now.
Right,
But he's doing pretty good, you know, for a tall
Well, he
guy.
was probably really young when they made him look it.
They shot that scene 50 years ago just to make sure they knew they would make this movie before the guy even got born. But anyway, apparently, you know, David eventually gets stabbed by accident with the syringe. But that was a lot of fucking black fluid in that syringe.
I don't think it was by accident. I think the fluid made it happen.
Well, that could be true. I mean, why was there so much of that soy sauce in that syringe? Like, that was a lot of soy sauce, right?
Yeah, you only need like a drop, apparently.
But I guess they were. I
would totally do it if it was real.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because it seems to have like a almost semi-permanent effect on your life.
He does say that it doesn't. Some parts of it are constant, but some parts of it will go away. I guess depending on seeing monsters and shit like that.
Well, he's talking with fucking ghosts all the time. Don't give away the twist, but
basically, what the story is that John and Dave end up being part of some giant conspiracy to take over the world, and it sounds very cut and paste, you know, stupid storyline shit, but there's enough stuff that happens in this film that it's very funny and quirky and weird in a way.
And that fucking spider monkey thing?
Yeah, and also the tall guy that speaks to them, not the tall man, but another tall guy who is played by, he's like in everything. He's what is his name? He played
he's in
he played the fish guy from Hellboy.
He's also in Lost, and he's in Carnival as like Satan, basically.
Who is he in Lost? No.
He's in the Hatch with what's his face? I can't even fucking think of it. He's with Desmond in the Hatch.
What are you talking about?
I'm positive.
Are you now?
I am positive. Yeah, Clancy Brown, right?
No, I was thinking about another actor actually. The skinny guy that puts that leech over David's shoulder.
Oh, that guy's creepy as fuck.
That's Doug Jones. Doug Jones is a really famous physical actor. He kind of looks like the singer from damn, what was that group that sang that song? It's a dead man's party. Blah 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 blah.
He reminds me of the evil, scientist in the old Looney Tunes.
He does kind of look like that. He was in a lot of. Let me see where you might know him. He was the fish guy, Abe from Hellboy. Do you remember Hellboy, the fish guy? And he was like the physical body.
The
for
whole
a lot
time I thought you were talking about Clancy Brown because he's in Lost. He was
a skinny monster in Quarantine. He played the Silver Surfer in the Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, I just saw that. That's cool.
Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff, and so I mean, it's pretty cool to see him actually talk in the film. It was so funny in Hellboy 1, they replaced his voice with David Hyde Pierce, who's brother on Frasier, and then when they went to make
I just saw him at one of my events. Do you know that the Silver Surfer's voice was by Lawrence Fishburne?
No, it wasn't.
It says it. I swear to God. Look it up.
What did he? It sounded like a regular. Well, not to say Lawrence Fishburne isn't a regular guy, but it sounded like a regular guy in the movie.
Are you saying that black people aren't regular? Is that what you're saying right now?
I say they are regular, like when you need to go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom regularly. That's what I mean. They are regular. They're regular human beings.
All right.
It's your constant noodling, or what is it? Needling? That's
Needling.
How the fuck do we explain this movie? How do you explain this movie? How do you explain this movie?
There is no way to explain it. You should see it because it has a lot of really cool visuals and it's unexplainable, which is awesome.
I mean, there's it's everything that you want from some sort of throw it at the wall kind of plot.
I would say that it's not really horror at all.
Well, the plot about taking over the world doesn't happen until 2/3 in, like the really last end of the second half of the film.
Yeah, you kind of even know what the movie's about.
It almost feels like they need a way to cap the movie with that. But there's
Yeah.
enough strong visual stuff. There's a lot of violence and horror in the movie, but not.
There's a great mustache scene. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I know. I automatically thought of you when I saw that part. But there's shit that happens in this movie that cherry picks from every kind of genre of horror.
Yeah.
And Paul Giamatti's pretty good because he produced the film and he has like a very small role in the movie, but he's very funny and for what he's in.
It made me think of China Mayville for some reason, but like a funny version.
Yeah, I can see that from what I read from those books. Yeah, but the guy, what do you think of the main character, the main David Wong? Did you like him? Did you think he was kind of an asshole or what?
He's kind of a douchey guy, but I like him.
I think he held the film pretty well, and I think he was actually like I'd like to see him in a lot more stuff. But I think I liked it because it was.
Is that like
character.
his first movie?
I don't think so. I'm sure he's done, but I thought like, wow, when I saw this guy, I was like, oh, he's pretty cool. But then again, for the whole time, I thought it was Robert Pattinson, so maybe I have a Robert Pattinson fetish. Hooga!
Right.
But the detective character is pretty neat because he becomes this kind of Terminator-esque character midway through the film.
He's the only one that knows what's going on at first.
No, it's not that he knows what's going on, but he has a feeling. Like he's one of those characters that are self-aware. That when something awful is going on, that he will take the steps to try to stop it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like somebody who, you know how in the Matrix where Neo has to be told, "Oh, you're in the Matrix," because he notices all that crazy shit going on. This is a guy who, in the middle of the movie, like if he saw the Matrix, he'd be like, "Oh, okay, something's going on, and I have to take care of it myself." So he kind of becomes that character, which is pretty neat. I wish he had like teamed up more in the film, but I
wish those other sequels were better.
I do too, but you know what?
They weren't that bad.
I think the Matrix Part 2. Which one was that? Matrix Reloaded.
With the twins.
It's probably one of the best action films I've ever seen in my life. Like literally,
it's really good, but they get so pretentious.
Somebody did a recut where they cut the Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions into one film, and they cut out all the unnecessary stuff. And I almost want to see that because.
That's probably really good.
If they leave in all the action from Matrix Reloaded, then I'm fine because that's one of the best action films I've ever seen.
Get rid of all that lovey-dovey shit. Like cut it down by half. Get rid of all that.
They had to get rid of that speech that old fuck at the end says.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying because like it's a good speech, but it goes on like way too long. There's a lot of scenes in that movie that are so up their own ass. They're so pretentious.
I saw it in the movie theaters when it premiered, and when that part came on, I was looking left and right at people because I didn't know what the guy was talking about. He used language that made no sense to me because it was so high class. He says all I remember from him saying is a vis-a-vis. That's it.
Vis-a-vis, yes.
Otherwise than that, but the John dies at the end. The art direction is fucking top notch. It's really good. The only problem that I have is probably the last 15 minutes of the film, and it's not plot wise, but this was a really high maintenance special effects sequence, and you can tell they just did it all in green screen.
Which one? Which part?
When they're inside that the monster pit, fighting the giant monster at the end. And all those guys are on the top of the terrace trying to battle them.
Yeah.
And you can just see where the camera was zoomed in and looked really horrible kind of graphics.
Yeah. What was his name? Morak or
I thought it was started with a K, but it was some weird shit that came out of nowhere. And I could
Korak.
I'm not sure, but I don't know if the mall that's used in this movie, the Mall of the Dead, which I guess is an empty mall, is the same one used in the Tim and Eric film. It's really
that would
weird.
be awesome.
It'd be funny. There's a dog called Barkley who's owned by a girl named Amy who has like one hand. I thought that was fucking awesome. That was like something out of a graphic novel, like
I was
a comic
kind of
book.
attracted to her.
She's pretty, yeah.
I mean, the idea that she had the one hand.
She's this girl who has one hand. It reminded
me
of this.
Being ready to get into amputee fisting.
I think she could give you a hand job with that, like.
Well, no, she give me a stump job.
Yeah, no, maybe if she leans with her thigh next to you, so then she can get the friction between the penis pressed between the stump.
Oh, it's
it has
between
to have happened.
the leg and the stump.
There is stump porn out there. I remember seeing a guy with a stump arm.
You know what'd be really cool? If it was a stump, but then like the head of the bone was coming out.
Oh God.
And like you veneer it in like wood. So
no, you can just glaze it with cum and make it easier.
You have like a wooden bone coming out.
But there's a sequence where the girl named Amy who has a stump hand. She has a stump for a hand. I don't. Did they explain how she lost her hand? It's probably in the book they do. But she's a really pretty girl. She likes. Obviously, there's supposed to be a forced attraction there with David, and she wears a plastic hand or a rubber hand, whatever the hell it is. And there's a funny part because there's a guy who's gonna be a future villain in the movie called Shitbrick or Shitload, and they call him because he has a shitload of monsters inside
of
him.
bugs in him.
And he
was awesome.
He's like, keep your hands off me, keep your hands off me. And then we realized that he took her fucking hand. And there's a part where they have a ghost door, and they asked her earlier if she had the phantom limb syndrome, and I was like, I love that, because it was so weird that was in the film, and I was like, that's such a cool idea for somebody to open up a door with their phantom hand. And talk about Shitload a little bit. Shitload was a pretty funny character.
He's awesome. It reminded me of what's that party movie with the guy that plays Chris Griffin on Family Guy?
Oh, Can't Hardly Wait.
Yeah, he reminded me of his character,
the
Seth
kid with
Green,
the goggles.
from
I remember that.
Like this stupid douchey bro.
Yeah, and he was talking with the whole the wigger.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
It's so stupid.
He's in there. There's a lot of characters that cross through this film.
I love the fact that even when he's possessed by this alien monster thing, he's still talking like a wigger.
Yeah. I think that was just to hide the guys, because I think in the book there's a whole Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of element that's in this movie.
And is that Korok is in charge of that or something? It's a little hard to understand.
Yeah, I think what the whole point of the takeover at the end of the world is that they send the black. Let's see if I can try to get this right. The black sludge, which is the soy sauce, was there to bring John and Dave, bring them into this opened up reality where they can see all this shit. And with their knowledge, they can bring it to... Who's the guy? Karnak?
From Korak.
Korak. They were supposed to go Korak's world. Spoilers, guys. Spoilers. You can turn it off. It's a good movie, but spoilers here. They go to Korak's world.
All because of this guy named, Clancy something, who's just, this man from the 1800s that, died when he was 20 from
because it's two split dimensions. And...
In one, this guy doesn't.
In one world, technology came because they messed around with animals and used that technology, like electricity from animals, whatever the fuck. In our world, it was regular, whatever we have now. And anyway, with that dimension, they want to bring John and Dave over and open up. It's very convoluted and weird. That's all I got to say. And they're supposed to. These little aphids or whatever those little creatures are that infect people are supposed to replace them.
Aphids sound like the guy from Bug.
Kind of, yeah, right? and kind of control the human race in that sense. For what reason, I don't know. I'm still confused on it. And it is convoluted, but it's just kind of a movie where you watch to have fun. I don't know what the difference between the novel is. Maybe there's people that read the novel and be like, what the fuck? The difference is that I saw enough in the novel from the Wikipedia and the film.
Right.
I'm sure if I had read the book, I'd be like, "What the fuck?"
I think I'm gonna read the book.
I think I will too.
Better than movies
because there was such a difference. But this film is weird and wacky enough that I was like, "Oh man, this is a very strange experience." But it wasn't awful. There's a lot of people that shit on the film too, because
What's it shit on?
I think those are people that just were married to the novel. You know what I mean? Like they didn't want to read
give me a break. People are too serious.
And I remember reading a long time ago on message boards when they first used to talk about this book a lot, and I'm like, really? I mean, it came out of Permuted.
I mean, then again, I guess I'd be pissed off if it was something I actually had read and loved. But
it came from Permuted Press, which was it's like an indie horror novel kind of company, which is pretty cool. I read a lot of Ed Lee books from them. Ed Lee is really fucked up writer, but that book, they just came out with another book. I guess it's a sequel to John Dies at the End called. Stay away from this book. It's infected with spiders or some stupid shit. There's like another weird title. Don't open this book. It's full of spiders. I think that's what it's called. But I guess that book is chugging along. But there's a lot of differences, and it's not really subtle. And anyway, I know we're rambling about it, but it's a really, really cool film. And name the top 5 moments for you.
Top 5?
Top moments for you that you thought were awesome.
Definitely the guy's head exploding is fucking awesome. And that spider chimpanzee thing.
I like Terminator Cop. I liked his character coming in. I like whatever that guy's name.
Shitload.
Shitload.
Yeah, I love Shitload.
There is
the
a
explanation
sequence
of the man from the 1800s.
There's a sequence with a bullet in this film that's so fucking awesome. Because
when he's shooting it at him?
Right, because, I mean, that effect is cheap, but the reason why... There's a whole sequence where, since David is fucked up with this soy sauce stuff, you're able to transcend time, if you can't control it or not.
It's kind of like Slaughterhouse-5 a little.
I keep hearing about it, but I've never read that. I don't know if it's time travel or guys fighting Nazis and shit.
It's
like
kind of
that.
like reincarnation, time travel, and aliens.
But
and
in
Vietnam
this,
or something.
David actually stops a bullet from killing him by going through time accidentally. So it's a really cool scene to watch because you're like, oh, that's so awesome. And but there's like a time travel. It's a film that, I mean, it makes you think on some levels, but ultimately it's a really crowd pleasing kind of horror, sci-fi, action, weird film, right?
It's just fun, yeah. I'd say it's more of a sci-fi than a horror, like, by far.
Yeah, we only say horror because it's extremely gory, and there's that whole H.P. Lovecraft kind of angle towards the end with worlds and dimensions and shit like that. But
Yeah.
other than that, I would give it I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Working at an ammunitions factory and looking back to see a guy who will appear there for a split second.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Mustache ripping off of someone's face and flying around like a bird.
And with that, what's our next film?
What is it? Oh, City of the Living Dead.
So then, what's the final word?
Quantum.
The horror deconstruction.